What's up guys, Asian here again with another Elsweyr PTS video, and today we're going to be talking about the potential of using Crit Rush as a spammable, or rather why you probably shouldn't be using it as a spammable. So a couple of bugs with the Elsweyr PTS have been hotfixed, they've been patched over, and I have been able to try out a few things here, but one of the things that people have been talking about both on the official forums as well as on some of the comments on some of the videos on my channel is the possibility of using Crit Rush as a spammable now that they've taken away that minimum distance required in order to use these sort of charger moves. So the idea behind it is Crit Rush is always going to be a crit, therefore it should act pretty nicely as a spammable. At least that's the theory behind it. However, as I'm going to show you guys today, the theory, what looks good on paper doesn't always necessarily work in practice. So today I'm just going to go over why, from a mathematical standpoint, Crit Rush is actually not as good of a spammable as you might think it is. And then I'll show you guys a couple of parses, or I should say two parses, to kind of show you in an actual parse scenario why this mathematics sort of holds up here. So for those of you guys who are not aware, as of patch 5.0.2, ZOS has taken away the minimum distance required for all of these charger abilities. So these are things like Crit Rush. I know the Templar has a gap closure move that would be something like Shield Charge under the one hand and shield line. So there's no longer a minimum distance required in order to use these abilities. A lot of these abilities right now in Wrathstone require something like 4 meters minimum distance in order to use these moves. As you can see here, I'm going to be right up against the dummy here, and you can see that the Crit Rush move, the second from the left skill, is still lit up. If this was on the live server right now, this move would actually be blacked out and I would not be able to use this move. Of course, this does have a little bit of weirdness behind it, so I'm just going to really quick use it here, and you can see I actually flew backwards, and that's just because Crit Rush will put you at the very edge of the enemy's hitbox. So if you are inside the enemy's hitbox like I am right now with the raid dummy, it'll actually port you backwards to the very edge of that hitbox instead. So Crit Rush was the one that a lot of people took a look at because it's on the two-handed line. You might be able to use this in place of another two-handed spammable, and it always crits. So you can see here the very last line on that flavor text is, "This attack is always a critical strike." Naturally, that got a lot of people thinking, well, I don't need any sort of closing distance anymore. I don't need to be within 4 meters in order to use it as a spammable now. It always crits, so I should be able to use this as a spammable. Now, what a lot of people don't realize here is Wrecking Blow is still stronger spammable, even though you won't be able to cast as many within a given period of time just because of the cast time associated with Wrecking Blow. Crit Rush is a little bit funky to weave. I can show you guys right now how it looks when you're trying to weave it. It's a little bit weird to weave, at least compared to something like Wrecking Blow at least. It feels a little bit smoother to weave Wrecking Blow, or even something like Executioner. It's not that bad, I think it's just a little bit weird, because you kind of have that flying distance, that travel distance, so it's a little bit funky to weave, but you should still be able to get more critical rush strikes compared to Wrecking Blows, again, because Wrecking Blow does have that cast time associated with it, so you'll get a little bit fewer casts out of Wrecking Blow. But just in terms from a raw damage perspective, Wrecking Blow is the two-handed primary spammable, or at least one of the spammable options you can run as a two-handed stam DPS. You see here it deals 15,454 physical damage right now. We do have a couple of buffs from the raid dummy here, and of course these values will change once those buffs go away. And then Crit Rush deals 7284 physical damage, but it is always a critical strike, so you can pretty much always take your crit damage modifier and add this into physical damage. Now, if you just take a look at how much you would basically need in order to match these two, 7284 is less than half of what Wrecking Blow is able to provide. And we're not taking a look at the empowered portion of Wrecking Blow, which is also a very strong contributor to why it's a pretty strong spammable. But for Critical Rush, your physical damage deals 7284. So it's always a critical strike, so you always want to multiply this by your critical strike damage. Now, the base amount of critical strike damage you can deal is 150%. You add in things like minor force, major force, that bumps it up to 175%. If you're running the Shadow with 7 Divines, that bumps it up by 19%. So that gives you all the way up to 194%. And then, of course, you also have precise strikes. So if you have, let's say, 21 points into precise strikes, then you have a total of between minor force, major force, 21 into precise strikes, and 19 from the Shadow Mundus. That gives you 40, 50, 65% additional critical hit strike bonus when you have major force active, and that'll give you a total. When you add it onto 150, it gives you a total of 215 additional critical damage bonus. So what you would have to do to see how this compares is, of course, you have to multiply this out by 215%. So if you decide to multiply this out, 7284 by 215, I'm just going to do it off screen really quick. 7284 times 200.15. You get 15,660. We are flooring it, so we're getting rid of that any sort of floating decimal points, which on the surface might seem better than Wrecking Blow. So I finally got rid of all the buffs here. So the values were with the minor savagery from the raid dummy when I was attacking it. So we'll just do the exact same thing, just with these different numbers now. So 6083 times 2.15, 6083 times 2.15 gives me 13,078, which on the surface, again, looks stronger than Wrecking Blow. Wrecking Blow only deals 12,909 damage. But you have to take into consideration that Wrecking Blow, this damage is its base damage. This is without any crits. So when you add in the crit chance and your crit modifier to this, Wrecking Blow will always deal more DPS. Even though you're getting less casts from Wrecking Blow, because again it has that cast time associated with it, and it does have a little bit of it basically you have a little bit of this post global cooldown time, so you won't get as many Wrecking Blows out of it, but it still deals more damage on average compared to Critical Rush. So again, Critical Rush, if you have major force and minor force, 21% into precise strikes, you have 19 into 19% from the Shadow Mundus, and let's even be even a little bit more generous. Let's say you're also a Khajiit. That brings you all the way up to 225% additional crit damage, which gives you 13,686 damage every single time whenever you use Crit Rush. But again, with Wrecking Blow, this is just the base. So if you crit and you still have that same modifier, you're doing a lot more damage with a single hit of Wrecking Blow than you are with Critical Rush. And that is what a lot of people are missing. The fact that the Wrecking Blow tooltip is the unmodified tooltip. This is before any crits are taken into account. So Wrecking Blow will always do more DPS. Plus, you have to consider the empowered buff from Wrecking Blow as well, which increases the damage from the next light attack by 40%. And since you're weaving it, it actually makes a pretty big difference to your overall light attack. Basically boosts your light attack damage by 40% while you're on your front bar. So that's pretty strong bonus overall. The other thing a lot of people are missing out on too is the fact that Critical Rush costs more to cast Wrecking Blow. So you can see here it costs about just shy of 400 stamina more in order to cast Critical Rush, and you are able to cast more Critical Rushes compared to Wrecking Blows in the same period of time. So Critical Rush will have a higher drain per second on your stamina, and as a result your sustain is going to suffer, which might end up impacting your DPS because you might need to end up using more heavy attacks. Heavy attacks on two-handers are the slowest heavy attacks between when you start charging it up and when it finally hits the enemy. So it is a very, very sizable DPS loss if you do need a heavy attack, if at all. But if you don't believe me when I say that, let's go ahead and take a look at the parses. So I did do a couple of, say one parse, some of these so I can save up some memory for later. So this one I accidentally hit the target skeleton next to me, but this is the actual DPS that I pulled here, 75,715. You can see here, Wrecking Blow did 5681 DPS. And you see our light attacks here, 7245 DPS, and we'll take a look at our drain per second from Wrecking Blow, 326. Now if we go over to the Critical Rush build here, you see Critical Rush had 429 additional drain, so about 33% higher than the Wrecking Blow. So again, 326 compared to 429, so about 100 more drain, so a little less than a third more. Take a look at Critical Rush here, 4261 compared to 5681. So we're about 1400 less DPS between our spammables. Take a look at our light attack, 7245 with Wrecking Blow compared to 6699 without Wrecking Blow. So this is with Crit Rush. So we have lower DPS on our light attacks as well. You can see here that I did have the heavy attack a total of 7 times in order to maintain the rotation. Over here, not have the heavy attack at all. No heavy attacks at all. I was able to fully sustain a light attack rotation running this build here. And the build that I did use, for those of you guys who are wondering, was, as you can expect, 2-piece Veladreth with 1 health enchant, 5-piece Reliquary on the body, 5-piece Perfected Locustes, all bloodthirsty, all weapon damage enchants, and I was using Artem Takeaway Broth. Then I did use a Great Sword, precise poison damage enchant on the front bar, Maelstrom infused weapon damage enchant on the back bar. So yes, while it did seem like Crit Rush might be a fun spammable to use, it does end up turning out that it is not quite as good. The parses seem to have followed up the mathematical theory behind it, and as we can see here, we're taking a look at about 4k DPS loss. So Crit Rush, not that great of a spammable when you can just use Wrecking Blow instead. So that is it for this video. Hope you guys found this informative, and I will see you guys in the next dungeon.